Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with designers Stephen Wren, Alex Flagg, and Taran Kratz, the team behind one of this year's most anticipated games, BURU. BURU is currently on Kickstarter with 25 days to go. So, gentlemen, talk to me a little bit about your backgrounds. I know that you're coming from different companies, right? So we've got a designer, we've got a manufacturer, we've got the creator of Crafty games. There's a little bit of everything here for everybody. It's almost like the Wonder Team. Let's start off. Who wants to kind of kick off and tell us kind of how this all came about?
I'll start out. I'm Alex Flagg. I'm the co-founder of Crafty Games. We've been in business for about 15 years now. Started out as a role-playing game manufacturer. Landed the Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn license and started doing that about 10 years ago. And and then through that license, we've transitioned into doing board games as well. And so we launched Mistborn House War back in 2016. Did very, very well for us. And literally a month after that campaign completed, we met Stephen, who is the designer of BURU.
Very good. Now, Stephen, your background, have you been a designer for a long time, or kind of what's your background?
Well, that's a very complicated question. My background's actually in academia. I have a master's, and I was about 3 years into a PhD program before leaving when I decided I didn't, really want that to be the rest of my life. And shortly after that, I joined Panda Game Manufacturing and have been with them for about 5 years now, a little bit more. And in terms of designing, I've dabbled in designing quite a bit before and after BURU, but I'm really bad at developing my ideas. I kind of I come up with new ideas that I want to pursue and try something else. So this was the first game that I had really seen all the way through to a point where it was pitchable.
So, I always have this kind of thought of what came first, the game and kind of the design of the game, or the theme, or were they kind of done at the same time, or how did that come about?
So the idea for this game came about mainly through the mechanisms. So I was looking to create a mechanic that would allow interaction in a Euro style strategy, engine building board game. So there are other games that handle interaction. Oftentimes it's very indirect, it's very minimal. And if it is more substantial interaction, it comes in the form of directly attacking the assets of an opponent. And I don't really have a taste for that. So I was looking for something that would be more interaction based on correctly evaluating your opponent's evaluation of their resources. So that's where the main mechanisms of BURU came about. The initial stages of that really lent themselves to this theme and concept of discovery. So I ended up looking for a theme that would fit well for that. And that led to I have a background in academia, so I started researching stuff, and that led to finding information about BURU and just falling in love with that concept. And I was, really, really thankful that Crafty continued to use that for the game.
So were you like a history major, or what was kind of your background of study?
Biology and fisheries and wildlife. So no, is the short answer to that.
So when you get into island nations that have fishing cultures and things like that, that's, I guess, the lead in there, is it?
I just like learning about things. That was sort of the bridge.
How far down the rabbit hole did you go on the whole Indonesian folklore and so forth?
So initially, not super far. I was really interested in sort of the early combinations of the animism, Buddhism, Hinduism, which led to the concepts of sort of the spirits of the island.
Okay.
And that led to the concept of paying tribute to them. That was about as far as I had gotten in the original design. And then when Alex and Crafty joined into the project and signed on the game, they started adding all the other elements. The concept of this being the Majapahit Empire extending their influence through trade to BURU, which is part of the Spice Islands. I'm sure Alex can talk more about that, but the concept of being diplomats of that empire to this new region that had already been colonized and had its own cultures, and the melting of that.
That's cool. And how did the two of you kind of come together? So were you pitching the game at like a pitch event, or how did kind of Crafty find you?
I did a very early play test of BURU with Gamerati, which is Ed Healy's company, in May of 2016. And he played it and said, "You should pitch this to Crafty." And I said, "Okay." So at Gen Con later that year, I met up with Alex and Patrick and showed them the game, and it got picked up at that point because they saw something they liked and ran with it.
So I don't want to leave Taran kind of in the cone of silence. So Taran, maybe tell us how you're tied into this whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll apologize in advance. I've got some clanging and construction going on in the background, so
no worries.
Apologize. But I met Alex a number of years ago at a con, and we started hanging out. Playing a bunch of games together, and then I met him and Patrick at Gen Con. I think it was Gen Con 2018.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And which is really cool because actually Alex lives in the same town as me, so we knew each other from back here, and then we met up at Gen Con, and he showed me this game, and I said, yeah, I'd like to work on it. And so they brought me on board to kind of help with the development and just kind of flesh out some of the mechanics. Alex was saying he'd been working on it for a little while, and I think had moved it along further than when even they originally got it. But then he's like, I've got a lot going on. I need a fresh set of eyes on this. Here you go. And so he just handed it to me, and I just started running with it. It was really fun. I've got a game design background, Kickstarter background. I've ran a few Kickstarters myself, and did a game. Actually, I did a game in 2017 that did pretty well, a game called Helionox. And my company's called Zeroic Games. And so, yeah, I've just kind of started. BURU, I think, was probably my first game that I contracted to develop. It was not my own game, I think. But since then, I've done several more. So I've kind of started getting into the development side of things, which has been
so
really
what
fun.
would you say is your strength then that you bring to the table? Is it the mechanics? Is it tying the theme into the overall game, or what is it? What's your kind of little secret sauce you add on this?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I dabble in so much stuff. I'm a really balanced kind of a guy. I actually do graphic design. I'm a graphic designer by trade, which is actually very important for building prototypes and making good UI decisions. Yeah. So I kind of started. I always look at games from like a UI perspective and like a graphic design perspective. Plus, with my game design background, I just kind of mix a lot of that stuff together. And then and BURU had such a strong core to begin with. I was like, it was pretty clear. Okay, here's the stuff that you don't mess with. This stuff's great.
Yeah.
And the rest of the stuff, let's see where we can readjust these other things and see if we can make this really shine. And so I think that's kind of what I brought to it, is a little bit more of the development side, kind of the a bit more of the creative design side, like break a whole bunch of stuff down, start building it back up type of thing.
And Alex, on your page, you talk a little bit about catch-up games and the importance to you of pulling in, game development companies in Indonesia, right? From a subject matter expert standpoint. How did that all come about? How did you pull them in, and kind of what role they play?
So the game's always been called BURU, and like Stephen liked that idea. I like that idea. It's one of the things that attracted us to the game outside of the rules when we first saw it, and we knew we wanted to go deep with that theme. And so, about the time, the development process on this game has been a series of kind of laterals. So we phased through, and so like we were towards the end of the mechanical stuff, and we were making the decisions about themes. And I knew that we had to choose: are we going to go lean into the historical side, or are we going to go another way where we can be, because I didn't want to do something that was like not true to the theme. If we're going to base it on a real place and real people, we got to be as true to that as we can within the scope of the game. And so that's where I found the Majapahit element. It was literally the first mention of BURU in a historical text. And so then I knew that, okay, I would find somebody who knows more about Indonesian culture than me. And so, I started out I went to, I was going to universities across the US. I was looking for, Southeast Asian study centers, things like cultural associations, and I was having a hard time breaking through. Yeah. And so finally I started cold writing people in the game sphere in Indonesia. So, Indonesians game development community is small. So I started going to publishers, looking for board game cafes, people in this distribution to see if I could make a contact. And I wrote to Kevin Hendrenata, who is, and found him and said, hey, I've got a crazy question for you. Like, I know you guys have done a couple games. It really is helpful when you have somebody who speaks the language of games, getting him with the cultural, because honestly, most people are like, oh, it's like board games. What do you need me for? Yeah. And so you kind of need somebody that bridges those, has a foot in both those worlds. And so that's how we met Ketchup. Kevin and Chris are the two guys behind Ketchup. And so we started a relationship with them. They were enthusiastic and they signed on. And then, we've been working with them for over a year now. So. And your artist that you brought on is Indonesian as well, or? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we brought on Dan May from Quillsilver. He's worked on Everdell, probably his most Archmage, a number of games, Black Orchestra. So he's got a spectacular design sense. And so we met him earlier on in the process through another friend. And he's like, we were talking about, I showed him the prototype and talked about what we're going for. And Dan was on board. And he's like, I know the guy. So Engar was the primary artist on, I believe, Archmage or Mistfall, maybe both. And so Dan reached out to him and Engar was like, what? He was all in. And Engar brought so many cool things that we never would have thought. And that's the wonderful thing about working with people that have a background in the culture, which you're trying to represent. A quick example. Wayang Kulit is the shadow puppetry. You may have seen this before in various like theaters and stuff. They're really long, skinny arms and stuff like that. It's beautiful. And I really had that. This is something I was really stuck on. And Taran heard me go on and on about this. I want to do that for the figures. Maybe we can make it look like this epic poem. Engar said, well, that's cool, but, there's all these in the Majapahit ruins, in the terracotta friezes, they have this very unusual style where everybody's kind of flattened out, so they all look like they're, kind of under pressed glass. And they have all these scenes of life. And these are, in the ruins of the original kingdom and some of the expansion areas. And he brought that in and that gave the game this really unique look. I've never seen anything like it before, but we wouldn't, that was Engar's idea. And then he said, I can make it work. And then bang. So yeah, it was really, that's the value of cross-cultural collaboration on things like this, I think. Yeah. I think you got to be sensitive too, right? Like it's, I think now more than ever, it's important that if you are going to pull in different themes, right, from different cultures, it's important to consult and make sure you get it right. Yeah. Because the last thing you want to do is create like a caricature of a culture, right? Because that can be highly offensive and can have the opposite effect of what you want to do, which is people enjoy and have fun in what you've created. So you want the conversation to be around that. So I think you guys have really hit the bullseye in how to approach that, and probably a good case study for other people who are working on games that do pull in from different themes across different cultures. This is probably the right model to follow if they're going to do that. Stephen, maybe you can walk us through exactly how to play this game. I was sharing the screen a little bit while you guys were talking because I did want to show the artwork, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. But let's talk about how you actually play the game itself. For those who
haven't seen the webpage, if you follow this on our YouTube channel, you can see the visuals. Likewise, in our Facebook group, if you join the Board Game Binge Facebook group, you can see a copy of this interview, some of the visuals, or just go to Kickstarter and search for BURU. So BURU. You'll find this game. The visuals are stunning. They're amazing. Stephen's going to walk us through basically how this, kind of the essence of how you play this game. And we'll do our best to use descriptive language for people listening to understand how you play it. But it is something that looks really, really exciting. So over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main mechanisms of the game involve sort of this combination of blind bidding and engine building. So players begin with 5 of these explorer tokens, which are double-sided. One side is the same, the other side has a value on it, ranging from 1 to 5. During each round of the game, play passes between the players, and they commit one of these tokens onto a region in the board. The base game has 4 regions. After everyone has placed all but one of those tokens, you reveal the last one and acquire fish based on the remaining token value. And the fish is a resource that's very valuable for acquiring some of the engine pieces, the cards in the game, as well as some of the honoring of the spirits at the end of each round. So then each region is resolved by flipping over the tokens and determining a majority in that, ties being broken by acquisition of an emissary token. In those different regions, you either collect resources, you collect Islander cards for your engine building, you can collect some Elder cards for endgame scoring, as well as pay tribute to the spirits of the island for the majority of the victory points in the game. Over when that finishes, you reset the board and continue. So that's the main mechanisms. Those were the core concepts that I had brought in, but I do think that when Taran was describing his influence on this, he was not really he was shortchanging himself, because the addition that Alex and Taran added, which were the decrees to make the different regions more valuable in different rounds of the game, the totems, which were sort of a twist on a concept that I had in the original design that didn't quite work correctly. But those mean that if you triumph, if you have higher value in a particular region, that could be valuable for other people scoring, because if you have a totem associated with a region, you're going to get some kickback for them paying tribute to that particular spirit. So that's the main concepts. If I'm forgetting anything, Alex, Taran, please feel free to jump in and fill in the blanks.
Here's what when I looked at the playthrough videos and some of the reviews, the kind of games I personally like to play are Euro style games, right? And I don't know if that's just my upbringing, fighting with my brothers or what, but I love Euro style games. And the trap I think a lot of companies can run into is they do a Euro, but they make it way too complicated, right? And I ran into this on a Kickstarter that I was looking at about 3 months ago. Beautiful looking game. And so I was looking through the page, I thought, I think I'm going to back this game. And so I was looking at the playthrough video, and I'm 10 minutes into the playthrough video, and I'm like, I still have no idea how to play this game. This is going to be a nightmare trying to explain during my meetup group nights and so forth, trying to explain this to other people. If it's this hard to explain the game, then it's an issue. And what I really loved about this game, BURU specifically, in a lot of the videos you've done, and even Board Games in a Minute, did a nice little video where you can explain the concept very, very quickly. It's not a incredibly difficult concept, but there's enough complexity there, I think, to bring interest, right? When people are playing it, the pieces are beautiful. You've got the tokens are, you've got wood tokens, you've got wood trading pieces, and all these things, I think, bring that tactile kind of playability to it, and make it more of a showpiece when you're playing, and want to, other people, when they see that, they want to play it when they walk by the table. but to me, you guys seem to have struck a really good balance between those two, right? Of, bringing in all the elements to make it a beautiful game, but still at the same time, not making it too complicated that people are going to kind of get lost when they're doing that. So, congrats on that. What I would say is that certainly it's probably a game I'm going to back just when I saw it. It's one of those ones that you quickly get the concept and it looks like a lot of fun. It is 1 to 4 players, right?
Yes, with the expansion, it's 1 to 5.
1 to 5. Now, can you talk a little bit about the expansion? How does the expansion work?
So the Ambelau expansion, which is available, was a day 1 expansion, kind of adds another layer of depth to the game. So it adds another region board. So you get a smaller round board that just tucks in and fits right between the village and Sacred Lake regions. This adds some new mechanics. It has a little more diversity mechanics, and it's all modular, so you can mix and match things however you like. It adds, so we have the Ambelau main expansion, which adds this board, a new spirit called Ibu, which has a more kind of a semi-triangular scoring. But it has this movement mechanic where you kind of putter around grabbing actions rather than based on your bid is the order you move. And so you can kind of race to get these extra benefits. And then it also adds we're $100 from adding the Akum expansion to that, which is as a new spirit that can be added to the base game or with Ambelau.
Is that the horse? Is that the horse head?
Oh, Kuda. Kuda is our mascot. So we have our mascot is a dude in a horse mask, and so we always find a way to work a horse into everything. It's just a weird little quirky thing for us. So yeah.
So is that just like a first player token, or what do you do with?
No. So Kuda is so he has a character. When he works in things, he's a chaotic, kind of gluttonous creature that always gets in the way of everything, an agent of chaos. And so what Kuda does is Kuda is activated as you triumph, the player's triumphant bid, so however many points they bid to win that area, it drives that pawn out of their region and moves around the board, leaving behind a little skeletal fish. It's got its own little token. It looks like a gutted fish.
Yeah.
And so what he's doing is he's blocking spaces, but if you can land on his space, you get a special action. So it's not stopping things, but what it's doing is dynamically changing the space, the play of the board. So you can't always be guaranteed, oh, I'm going to get this best spot or whatever. So it's another fun way to kind of throw in there if you want to mix up a game, maybe make it a little more dynamic in terms of bidding and decision space without complicating anything.
And did I read that correctly? You get that automatically if you add your name to the mail list? Is that all you have to do?
Yep, that's it.
And back the game, obviously, but
back
to the mail list, and you get an extra little add-on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to add to the game. So
I was curious, why wouldn't you split this campaign? I'm sure you guys went through this discussion of base game, and right now you guys are sitting at almost over 72,000 Canadian on a pledge value of 24,000 Canadian. So you guys have crushed your goal. You're 3 times your goal.
Yeah,
congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Almost 700 backers. You still got 25 days to go. So this is going to be a huge monster success. There's no doubt about that. I think the math is pretty straightforward on that. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you launch the base game, then come back like a year later and do the base game plus the expansion? What was the thought process behind that?
Well, so this is kind of a newer thing, and I know some people come back and kind of dip back into the well. And I think that's a valid strategy for certain games. I think we have as a publisher, we have a couple different extenuating circumstances. One is like, do we want to get to a certain price level for the game? Like, if we want to just do the base game and say, okay, that's good enough, and we'll come back and try it. But, do people want to have their stuff parted by a year or more? That level of uncertainty. We wanted to do, for the deluxe edition, we did a fancy game tray, and this gave us the ability to make sure that tray could hold everything inside the base box. So that's something we're kind of organization nerds. We love like really cool inserts and stuff. So we wanted to do that. And I think sometimes it's good to just have a really complete idea, like to say, we're going to make it for retail, since Crafty does push our games to retail.
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing like a short print run to fulfill a Kickstarter and see how it goes, we believed in BURU from the beginning. We wanted to see it succeed, and we knew that if you go to retail, you sell your game in, and then 3 to 4 months later, you're going to want to have the expansion to activate those customers again, like who are enthusiastic. I'm really enjoying the game, but I'd love to have something to change it up, or oh boy, it's like, oh, they have some asymmetrical powers. That'd be a fun way to revisit the game. And if you do that in 2 separate Kickstarters, you don't have anything to offer them, right? Like it's not there. If we were doing something where it was like Century or something like that, we could all offer an alternative version of BURU where we could kind of build on its success, in the same way that Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion or Forgotten Circles did. That'd be one thing. But I think here it was, for this game, it felt like being able to put it all out together and being able to follow in retail and have those things together was probably a stronger call for the game and its health.
Another thing I thought was very interesting, maybe we can talk a little bit about the add-ons really quickly. So with the deluxe version was only $10 more for the deluxe version, which I thought was pretty cool, right? It wasn't a giant leap. It was only $10 more for the deluxe version. That gives you printed tokens, right? Screen printed tokens. And I think like the actual player tokens there have like a gold kind of foil print on them as well. You get the game trays, which a lot of people look for in their games because it keeps your pieces and everything well organized. So there's a lot of cool stuff you guys included in there as the for just $10, which I thought was pretty cool. Another thing I thought was really interesting is that the game mat fits in the actual box. Like, how often do you see that?
The game mat, this game mat won't. And
this one won't.
No. It's 30 inches by 36. So you're trying to fit this into a Ticket to Ride box.
Got it. So where did I read that? I thought I read that somewhere that the game mat fits.
Some people have asked if it would fit. All the other components will fit in there, including the promo and stuff like that. It's got a cavity in the game tray. But if we're going to get a nice thick neoprene, you won't be able to do it. Or you have to do something like Oath did, where they roll it up and then tuck it in one side, and it takes up a significant chunk. We didn't. It won't fit inside.
Okay, so I will stand corrected on that because I don't want people saying, "Hey, you promised," and I got my game, it didn't happen. The game mat looks really cool though. So it's like the board, and I know when you have cards you're placing down on your table, if you got like a mat, it's easier to pick up your cards and so forth, and they stay in place, which I think is awesome. So congrats on that as well. And then what other add-ons did you guys throw in there? Was there anything else? I mean, there was quite a bit on that page. Just scroll real quick.
It was mainly the neoprene mat, sleeve packs. And then
sleeves, that's right.
It was easy.
The bowls.
The bowls. Yeah.
Tell me about the bowls, man.
This is a fun thing. So, I love resource bowls and stuff like that. So we've got a manufacturer overseas to make them out of coconuts. So
That's
they're
crazy.
little coconut sands. Yeah. So we're going to get them, I'm still waiting for the samples to arrive. It took a while for them to ship. But yeah, our plan is to actually have the BURU logo inside the bowl. So you'd have these little coconut bowls, which will, fit the theme of the game and be really cool. So
how cool is that? I was, when I saw, I had to do a double take. I'm like, wait a second, was that actually like a coconut shell? It's actually coconut shells you guys turned into the bowls. That's amazing. So where do you guys go from here? You've got kind of, and it's cool having, a designer, having, the game company, having, somebody from another game company who's got some, deep consulting experience and so forth in game design, kind of coming together as a triumvirate. Where do you guys go from here? Are you doing another game, or you kind of go your separate ways, or what's kind of the next steps?
I'll leave it to the guys. I've been talking enough.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I hope to work together again. We haven't made any plans specifically to do anything, but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some possibilities going forward. Right now I'm working on several projects. I'm working on one project I hope to have out later this year. It's called Helionox Chronicles, another game set in the Helionox universe.
Nice.
And some other projects that I've got going on for some other companies, but yeah, I mean, hopefully, I don't know, 2022, maybe. I'd love to see it happen myself.
And
I have a couple new designs in the works. As I mentioned, I tend to put those off quite a bit, but they're good now. Certainly, I would be happy to pass them over to these two to make great.
So that's maybe a little pre-plug for your next pitch, I guess. Eh?
I like it.
gotta slide it in there while you can.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen, this game looks awesome. You've got a background to me. People to watch my podcast know that I don't ever receive games as for payment or donation or anything like that. So when I back a game because it's a game that I actually want, and I pay my own dollars to do that. So this is definitely one I want, and I'll just say it there because it looks awesome. You guys are going to crush it. I can't wait to see where this actually ends. But I'm sure you guys are happy already, and who knows where the limit's going to be.
Well, thank you.
All the best.
Thanks.
You guys take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, you too.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply join the Facebook group Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.